So after our discussion, I will actually upload this onto YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, you can also connect with me there. And at least it'll be much more easier for you to gain access to all of these videos. So if it's the first time that you're joining us, welcome to Mindful Trinity. We are so grateful that you actually joined us. And to all of our amazing viewers from different parts of the globe, welcome to Mindful Trinity. And I'm your host, Vaishnavi Charan. So tonight is a very interesting and very special discussion that we're going to be having with two wonderful individuals. They're going to be sharing their knowledge and their insights, basically educating us on the topic of simple living, higher thinking, especially in this day and age that all of us are living in right now, especially with this old pandemic going on. We all need to learn how to sustain ourselves and make do with what we have, even if it's a little, how to actually make do with it. It's quite challenging, but we're going to get the experts educating us on this topic. So we have from Durban in South Africa, we have Joe West. He's an agricultural consultant, an urban organic farmer, and an advocate for self-sufficiency and sustainability. We also have Nomusa Malatji from Johannesburg in South Africa. She's by profession a financial manager. She's also a blogger in her free time and a lover of gardening. So we're going to ask both of our guests to give us more information on them, elaborate on their bio for you guys, because I actually try to make it short and sweet, but it's not nice to actually cut them short because I know they have lots of interesting stuff about themselves to share with us. We'll start with Joe, if you want to just tell our viewers more about you.
Hi, thank you very much. Hi to everyone. Very honored to be part of this conversation. Yeah, so I've been interested in farming, and really not just farming, but different aspects of self-sufficiency for about 20 odd years, maybe 24 years, I would say. Really since I was a teenager. And for me, it started more trying to look for an alternative lifestyle, trying to look for an alternative to our sort of industrialized capitalistic way of life. And so for me, it was very much more driven ideologically, initially, more than just my love for nature, which was also there. But now, gradually, as I've been involved in farming and gardening and so on, also just by putting your hands in the soil and cultivating plants, naturally your love just develops for it. It's an amazing thing, actually. So this is where I'm at, and I've been doing urban farming. In other words, backyard farming, literally in an urban environment, for about 2 years now. I supply restaurants in Durban, just with a few basic products, but it's actually been good enough for me to make a living off of it.
Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, that's actually very interesting, especially with the backyard farming. All of us want to learn more about that. And Nomusa, if you want to actually give us more information on you to our audience.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vaish, and good evening to the audience. Nomusa Malatji, as you've said, Vaish, I think basically for me, the love of backyard gardening, safe sustainability, as we're saying, started also at a young age. You know, I was born in a farm and I was raised in a developing township in the Free State. And I've just always had the love of nature. You know, my dad was a brick maker and would work a distance very, very few kilometers away from home. So we used to take him lunch boxes, and all those journeys every day were walking on the fields, you know, running by the rivers, walking streams, and obviously coming to Johannesburg and pursuing a career which is quite challenging. That desire to want to connect with nature has always been there. And I've just found that honestly, Mother Nature has got abundant healing abilities. And I started gardening basically as a desire to just find something as an alternative to self-sustain mentally, because there's proven facts that, you know, when you garden and spend a bit of time outside, outdoors, it does help a lot with your mental well-being. So that's just basically where it started for me, to just try to find an alternative for myself where I could have some quiet time, or some, you know, as we call it, me time. Every parent understands this. I've got a husband, I've got two beautiful, wonderful girls. And so space away from work, space away from the day-to-day duties of being a mother and a wife, just a space where I could just be by myself. And just started out obviously as a hobby, and lo and behold, 5 years later, I'm growing my own vegetables from the garden straight to my table. I'm cooking wonderful dinners for my family, and it's just been a fantastic journey, I must tell you.
Wow, awesome. That's so exciting. I am actually very, very inspired to actually learn more, because this whole pandemic actually taught me not to keep on running to the stores and buying, even if it's a packet of chilies or anything of that sort, just to grow it in your own yard, and you actually have it organic as well. So just to remind our audience, if you are just joining us right now, the topic that we're going to be discussing is on simple living and higher thinking. We have Joe West from Durban and Nomusa Malatji from Johannesburg, South Africa. They're going to be sharing the insights and the knowledge with us. But before we get into our conversation, I want to mention a little disclaimer that I put together for Mindful Trinity. So the opinions, views, and beliefs expressed are those of our guest speakers and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Mindful Trinity or the policies of the company thereof. The content of the show does not constitute any legal or medical advice and is provided for general insights and guidance. If you require specific legal, medical, or any professional advice, you should contact a specialist or a qualified practitioner. So to start off our discussion, I want to ask a nice question. What is simple living and higher thinking? Maybe let's start with Joe. Maybe you can actually give us more of an idea of that. And if Nomusa has anything further to add to that, you can actually add to that.
Okay, well, from my understanding, at least the way I see it, as I said, for me, it's a little bit more of an ideological or almost like a philosophical question, but it has a practical implication. So it really means that, you know, if you have to ask the question, what are we sort of doing on, what is our position on this planet? What are we doing? What is our role? You know, there's so many different species of creatures on this planet, and where do we fit in? Because we keep on, you know, destroying the planet in a sense. You know, people are always saying, I've heard people even saying that human beings are like a cancer on the planet. You know, we are like a cancer destroys its own host, or a parasite destroys its own host. And at the moment, we're very much living like that. We're actually destroying the very place that we are inhabiting, you know, like cutting the branch off that you're sitting on, in a sense. So from my understanding is that in order for us to know what to do, we have to know where we want to go. Like if you're going from point A to point B, from Johannesburg to Durban, if you take the road, you know where you're heading. And if you're heading in the wrong direction, you might say you're making progress. You've been driving for 5-6 hours, you know, but you might be on your way to Cape Town, and you haven't actually made any progress towards Johannesburg. Yeah. So the first thing is to understand sort of what is our position, what are we supposed to do on this planet, you know? And my personal understanding is that, and I think across all religious and spiritual backgrounds, is that I see human beings as the spiritual species, you know? And what it means is that we basically have to focus on the basic necessities of our life, being human, what it means to be human, you know, and that we are the custodians, we are the guardians on this planet. In fact, at our highest peak, we can be the best species on this planet. We can make this place beautiful. We can make this place abundant. We can create harmony on this planet. Yeah. But it would mean that we have to live simply. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Andy said, I've got actually two.
No, go ahead. Okay, we lost Joe there. Nomusa, do you want to add on whilst we wait for Joe? Okay. I actually lost both my people. Nomusa and Joe. I'm gonna...
The little day-to-day steps that you need to take for your life to be present for each and every second of your life. And the three different components of being a human being: your mind, your soul, your body. What is it that you are putting in your body? So if you want to be sustainable, meaning if you want to see yourself living a longer and a healthier life, it coincides with the gardening and what we want to touch on today about the self-sustainability part of gardening and, working with Mother Earth. But it's a part of being self-aware, of being conscious, of saying, what is it that I'm putting in my body to make sure that I live the kind of life that I desire to live, or the quality of the body that I want to see? What is it that I'm doing for my spiritual self that I want to keep my life simple, that will ensure that there is sustainability? And I think as human beings, we are people of purpose. We are not just here to be on earth to idle. And I think that's just part of trying to identify, to say, and that's why I keep on emphasizing that COVID is basically here to teach us that. That's one of my biggest takeaways. How do I keep my life simple? How do I keep a sense of alertness, a sense of awareness with my day-to-day choices?
Yeah, I actually do like that. It's very informative, and I like what you said. In fact, both of you, with regards to being conscious of what we're putting into our body and what we are doing for our spiritual self. So what would you say? What are the merits of simple living and higher thinking? How would you actually maybe expand on that?
Okay, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead.
Yeah, you could go. Yep.
First of all, yes, it's I think it's a holistic approach to life. It means that it's simple living is also healthy living. It means that you're aware of your impact on your environment and the people around you. In other words, you're going to have better relationships with your immediate environment, and also obviously for future generations. We have to think about not just ourselves,
Yeah.
And also other creatures on the planet. So all around, you can genuinely feel like you can go to bed feeling that actually you're doing something positive, And I think what more can we really want in our lives than to feel that we're doing something good, towards all everyone around us. We're actually having a positive impact, There's nothing more as a human being I think you can really strive for than to do your best.
Yeah, that's actually correct.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Nomusa, do you want to add to
think
that?
if I can just,
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
I think we have to cultivate the desire to be present, and we have to ask and just tell ourselves, stop being an autopilot, in your life. And a lot of us, too many of us, we walk on this planet Earth just on an autopilot, as if there's just this predetermined activity. You wake up, you sleep, you eat, you do this, you do your chores. So you need to really just take a moment every single day and say, listen, I am responsible for my life. I am responsible for my day-to-day choices. I'm also responsible for the outcome and the kind of future that I want to see. And like Joy said, the type of future that I want to see for my children, for my family. And ultimately, let us remember that if we build strong families, we ultimately building stronger communities, and we'll be able to build a stronger, country and a better world. And if we want to see a picture of a better world 1,000 years from today, it starts with the decisions. It starts with the steps and the choices that we are making today. And we can no longer procrastinate that. It is a reality. We cannot procrastinate our decision making and the quality of life that we want to see in the future.
Yeah, I actually do like that. It's actually very interesting when you say building strong communities actually starts with a decision, and we have to become more aware and more responsible. So how can we start to live simpler? Maybe Nomusa, you can start.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd like us to just focus basically on what we eat and what we put in our bodies. And I think gardening for me stands out as one of those things that can actually, encourage us to take care of what we put into our bodies. A lot of things, a lot of the products that we get nowadays, they are genetically modified. And really, to be quite honest, the majority of us are not even aware of what that means. What are those contents and what are the after effects of those things that have been put into food that we eat? So just taking responsibility for our food, because remember, our food affects our hormones, you know, it affects our brain functioning. So if we can take care of that, and for me, it's not just being responsible about what you put on your dinner table, what you are putting on the breakfast table. Just have a sense of awareness and just, you know, try to push yourself to take a little bit of more responsibility in knowing the products and the food that you are taking, and start a garden, you know. You don't need to have a big space. You don't need a yard. You don't need a big farm. You know, Joe and myself, we are backyard gardeners, and start a garden, you know, start to plant something small. And let me tell you, it's also not just about eating, but it's just about having a sense of control. A lot of us have lost that sense of control. And I know there's a lot of people that are like me out there. You know, when you are in a moment of uncertainty, you get a lot of anxiety, and that can affect, you know, you in the things and the goals that you want to achieve, because suddenly you are in this moment of void, you know, where time is just standing still. So what I've found with gardening, Vaish, is that, you know, just being able to put a small seed of a tomato seed, for example, on the soil and just watering it and seeing it grow, that gave me a sense of control, the sense of, you know what, things can still grow during COVID, you know, things can still grow during a pandemic. And it just gave me a sense of hope to see that no matter what happens around the earth, Mother Nature continues to honor the rules, you know, Mother Nature continues to honor. So that just helped me to say there's a part of myself that I have to be self-aware that certain things can stop, but there's something in nature that is quite miraculous that I have to stop and pay attention to. So I'd say start a garden, and I can't wait to share more
like
tips
that.
on how we can go about doing that.
Yes. And Joe, do you have anything to add to this?
I agree with that, actually. It's a very good place to start. You know, of course, there's many other sort of things you can do in your personal life, but this is a very practical thing you can do. To have a connection with where your food comes from, to understand the whole cycle of life, you know, put things into perspective. I also like we save all our vegetable cuttings and so on from the house. We make your own compost. So there's a whole cycle, you know. We're part of a cycle, and that cycle is very evident in the garden, you know, when like Nomusa said, from starting to make your own compost, to planting a seed, seeing it grow, eating it, and then again everything going back in the cycle, you know. And it's that in itself is a very simple thing, and that is the basic thing of life. We are ultimately, you know, on one side, we are no different from other animals in a sense, you know.
Yes.
Eat, sleep, mate, and defend, right? We are part of, we think we are on top of the food chain in a sense, you know, but you're actually just sort of part of the food chain. You know, we're not really on top. We're part of it. And I think starting a garden is a very wonderful way to actually just sort of calm your mind down and slow down, because nature cannot be rushed. You know, you can try and rush nature, but it just doesn't work really.
Yeah,
So
that's
slowing your mind down and seeing, as Nomusa said, once again, the abundance of nature is just amazing. The little bit that you put in, you get so much more back.
Yeah, that is so true. So how would you say, how can we be more self-sustainable? Because I mean, most people think that to grow a garden, they would need to have lots of money, especially to buy the seeds and things like that. But I know you did say that you also take your food cuttings, your vegetable cuttings, and you actually deposit it into the soil and you grow it. So what advice do you have for us? Maybe Joe, you can actually start to elaborate on that. How can we become more self-sustainable?
So depending on the size, if you're living in an apartment, of course, okay, well, I can advise people getting worm bins, or even a small type of worm bin. That's always practical, even if you live in a small space. If you've got a balcony at least, you can. So let's just talk about how you can grow a few things. You know, get some pots or even crates, sort of milk crates or something. Get some potting soil. best way to start a garden is to start. People are always so scared to get started, and just to get past that first step, you know. People always come up to me, how do I start a garden? And I always just tell them, just start, you know, because it's not rocket science, really isn't. This is one of the oldest occupations of human beings. You know, we've been doing it for a long, long time. And those plants want to live. They want to live, and all we have to do is just basically give them a little bit of help, and they'll do the rest. So get some good potting soil. Get a spot with sunlight. It has to have a bit of sunlight. Plant your seeds or your seedlings that you can get from a nursery. Follow the instructions on the, you know, in the packet, and just make sure you care for the plant, water and sun, and a bit of nutrients, and that's all you need to get going, you know.
I know some people say that they do not have green fingers. So what advice do you have for those people?
Just get them green. They'll become green when you start touching the plants, you know.
I agree. Look, I think there's just no other way. I struggled with a few plants myself, and I would try them over and over. And I guess it was also just a test of my patience. And I think that's just the whole experience about gardening. And just also a lesson about stuff in life, you know. There's this quote that I also like, is that you don't quit until you've completed something. And starting a garden doesn't mean every seed that you plant is going to pop up, you know. So it will test your patience, obviously, but the more you try, the more, I mean, and also different regions, it's good to know that different regions have got different vegetable species that they prefer to grow in more humid or in more cold. I mean, I'm from the Free State, and there are certain things that will not thrive in such a cold environment because it's cold for most part of the season. And I'm currently in the East Rand. I've seen that there are certain items that, you know, don't necessarily grow very well as would be the case in Limpopo. So you and you start to learn, you know. And I think, and obviously there's always places like your nursery, as Joe mentioned, where you get your potting soil, and some of the items, there are always a good space to go to just get more information. So no, Vaish, you don't have to have green fingers.
I know there's something that you shared on social media not so long ago, and I asked you to make it shareable. This is actually not veggies or anything. It's orchids. I also love orchids. You can see I have two, and one has flowers, but the other one doesn't have a lot of flowers. And there's one that actually doesn't have any flowers at all. And I've got another one that also doesn't have flowers. So maybe you can actually tell our viewers, because we have lots of orchid lovers out there. How do you actually make it stay alive?
Listen, at one point, I did call myself an orchid assassinator. I'm telling you, I would get these beautiful, pretty flowers and have them in my house, and only for them to last for a few months or so. And that would literally break my heart. So I thought of this fantastic group on Facebook. I will share with our audience at the end. And one gentleman posted their boiling banana peels. I would have never thought that, just boiling banana peels and then watering your orchids twice a week, that actually encourages growth. And I could literally see the stems of my orchid growing again. And obviously, just to understand the season when it starts to bloom, and understanding. And there's also at the nursery, there's a few what do they call it, orchid, I don't remember the name, but there is some food that you can actually feed the plant. But I found that the main one that has been working fantastic for me has been just boiled water from the banana peels twice a week. That has been doing a miracle to my orchid plants, and I'm no longer an assassin anymore.
Okay, so with that water, after it's boiled, it's cooled down. Must it be refrigerated ice or room temperature?
Just at the room temperature. I mean, it is a very warm season right now. I can imagine some people in Devon probably want to prefer to just keep it in the fridge. But if you are in a cold area, a room temperature should suffice. And just water it twice a week. And that does the magic on your orchids.
Awesome, awesome. So, I know you did mention about we don't have big, we don't need to have big amounts of land in order to build a garden or create a garden. How many acres of land would we need to live sustainably?
If you want to be completely sustainably, I mean 100%, then for one person you'd need about a hectare.
Oh.
But the interesting thing is, that if you want to, if it becomes 4 people, for instance, you might need 2 hectares. So it doesn't mean per person. It's just because of the variety of things that you want to grow. And sometimes some certain plants create abundance, and you'll actually end up with more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you grow one a brinjal plant, right, which takes up a certain amount of space, that plant actually gives you more than what you can use. You're going to give, even from one plant, you're going to be giving your neighbors.
Oh, wow.
So it's a complicated question, because it's not necessarily, you can't really say per person exactly, because if you have 10 people sort of farming together, then even maybe 2 or 3 hectares might actually be enough to completely, I'm talking about making your own bread.
Yeah.
I'm talking about completely sustainable. If you're talking just about vegetables itself, if you've got a garden that's about, I would say, 12 meters by 12 meters or something like that, you'd be able to sustain a family of 4 for the whole year practically. I'm talking just about your basic vegetables.
Yes, and you just gave me an idea whilst we were talking. It would be nice if all neighbors in communities can collaborate, and each person or each neighbor grows something different, and we all can actually have the barter system. I know in the past lifetimes, I would say, people used to do this. But I think as people advanced, or as society advanced, they actually forgot how to do things like this. We think it's more advanced to actually go to the shops and buy, when it's much more better, much more simpler, if we actually grow our own and we actually save in the long run.
Absolutely, Vaish. Actually, what you're mentioning, my in-laws are still doing it. My husband is from Limpopo in Libuafomo. So they grow avocados, mangoes, and there's moringa tree. There's quite a few fruits. So what happens is the other neighbors are growing lychees and the other variety. So you find that in December, when you go there, we literally exchange a basket of mango, and then we get lychees, and so you get that entire buttering system that you're talking about. And I mean, just imagine the beauty of how we can feed our own communities just by starting a simple garden, and like Joe said, it's amazing how much just 3 seeds of avocado. I planted 3 seeds of avocado because I was starting out. I got more than 20 avocados just from those 3 seeds. So it just tells you what Joe is telling you, that ultimately, whatever fruit that you're going to be picking, whatever vegetable you're going to be picking, it's definitely going to be more than enough, and you are going to end up sharing with your community. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
That's very nice. So how long did it take you to grow these avocado trees?
Okay, the avocado trees are from my in-laws, so I wouldn't necessarily know how long they've had them. But I mean, Limpopo, they call it the Garden of Eden. So pretty much like Durban, it's known for its fruits, and it's a very, very fertile soil.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Maybe Joe or even Nomusa, one of you can actually answer the next question. What type of herbs and veggies can we grow in small habitats such as flatheads? Because not all of us has the luxury to have big yards or even big spaces to actually create these gardens. So for people that are living in flatheads or small habitats, what advice do you have?
I'll mention a few. I'll mention a few, and I'm sure Nomusa could add some as well.
Okay.
I'll start from the easiest ones. Okay, the easiest thing to grow, I guess, would be something like lettuce, green beans. Now, lettuce is like it's just almost no care. You just sort of plant it and water it. That's it,
Yes.
Green beans are quite nice. They don't take up a lot of space, and they give you quite a lot. Something that's the quickest thing to grow is radish. There's nothing quicker than I've come across. then radish. Brinjal, you can do in a pot. Peppers, you can do in a pot. If you've got a bit of a balcony with and nice sun, you can do a tomato. It can grow sort of up. You know, if you just stake it up, you can do tomatoes, which also are quite abundant. There's a lot of people in Europe, like for instance in Italy, that grow tomatoes on their balcony, you know. Then chilies are very nice. Okay, so those are some veggies. And then obviously herbs. You're looking at thyme, rocket, basil, oregano, mint. I know that was Nomusa's first, right? Mint. Something like rosemary takes up a little. You can prune it, but yeah, those are a few. Chives, if you want to do that, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very nice. So I know Nomusa, when we were actually discussing over the week, you mentioned something about lemon tree. We can actually grow it in a pot.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely,
Vaish. And I think if you don't mind, I've got a few pictures, and I think just you know to interest some of our viewers, I can just share them.
Yeah, sure.
If you want, can I go ahead?
Yes, please do.
Alrighty. Because it's really quite fascinating what you can grow just from a simple pot. And the spaces where you don't want to go commercial, you know, by all means, you can grow this. So just a second, we'll have all of our pictures there. Okay. I'm sure you okay, so those are some peppers which I was growing on the ground, obviously, but I'm just gonna go further. This is what Joe was talking about, green beans, very easy to grow also, and you can also grow these pods. Wow. Can you see that box there?
Yeah.
Like, this is not necessarily from the ground, you know, and just look at the size. You can simply put this on your balcony somewhere, you know, make a little space at the corner, and there you've got it, you know, you've got your nice green and lettuce. And lettuce is just one amazing vegetable, I must say. Yeah. The more you harvest, yeah, the more you get. And there's my favorite job. There's my mint, nice. Also growing in the box. And right next to it there, you can see there's parsley. You know, so also a very, very easy herb I found to grow. A moment, obviously, as Joe mentioned, it was my first and remains my favorite. Wow. Some beetroots, you know, that you can grow. Yes, and there are some carrots.
Wow.
This was actually garlic. So I was trying to grow this garlic, and I was just actually amazed by this result. Also from a pot, as you can see the size of this pot. So yes. If you have a balcony, or you can basically put this outside. I'm sure Joe will touch on some of the plants that you can grow indoors, because we do have a few herbs that you can grow indoors, but I'll let him share more on that. And there's more. There you've got my chilies there. Okay, look how plenty is this. And this is just for my small family. And already you can see we cannot consume all of this in one single day. You're going to start to learn how to preserve these. You see, these are now habaneros that are starting to preserve in jars, and just have to do had to do a bit of research to find out how do I store this for use later. Okay. My favorite herb, basil.
I love that too.
One of my favorite. It is fantastic. Brings an amazing flavor to your food. Sage goes very well with your pork. You know, it's such a fantastic herb. Also, you can grow this also in your pots. Some celery, you know, it does very well. It's doing very well. Lettuce, as Joe said, this is one of the simplest things to grow. And I think if you want a confidence booster, like Joe has said, I support him 100%. You can start with the lettuce. I mean, it just never disappoints.
Okay, wow.
And just, you know, it's just a few ideas, obviously, on, you know, how you can start about putting some seed on the soil. Obviously, I've got some compost there. And as you can see, I've got dates when this was planted and the type of the seed that I've put in there. And what's also nice is that you can just cut these boxes of eggs and put it into the ground, so you don't have to take off the plant, because I believe these are biodegradable.
Okay.
So I think just some ideas also there, Vaish.
Yeah.
You know, for people that have got a little bit of a balcony, but they're saying, okay, I want something a little bit. We have a lot of planter boxes from nurseries. This you can just get from your nursery. Or if you've got a local guy, I actually had a local guy hand make this for me from scratch. And we were able to plant, I've got baby spinaches there. It's one of my favorite. I've got chive, as Joe was also indicating, chive is easy to grow. Okay, lettuce, like I said. How beautiful is this now?
Beautiful.
On your sandwich. Hey?
Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I'm very inspired. I'm very inspired to actually start this.
Yeah.
And another nice thing I just want to mention is that you can grow a lot of things that you won't actually get at the shop, because the variety of things that you get from the shop is very limited. It's sort of
favorite, obviously. Strawberries, hey? So this has been wonderful to see, and it's really been amazing to just enjoy a few harvests from the strawberries. Another thing I just wanted to mention also, just in terms of ideas for those that are saying, I've got a hanging space, I've got a place where I could hang something. So I just thought this would be a good idea for hanging baskets.
Yeah.
You see, because I've got some strawberries there, I've got some thyme there, and I think more strawberries. So it's just a few ideas to say you don't, sometimes you just don't need a big space. If you really have a really small space, hanging baskets, they come in very handy, and you can get these from your nearest nursery. Vaish, I also wanted to touch a little bit on this. You know, most of us, when we go to Checkers, we get these little garden seeds.
Yes. Do they still do that though?
They have been doing it. I know it's seasonal. They do it like in and out, and they'll have like a season where they do it. Yeah. But what's fantastic about this is also is that then they are locally made by a company called Living Seeds, and they're based here in South Africa. So it's fantastic. All of their seeds are not genetically modified, so it's quite good. Also, it's something good to know that, you know, these are local seeds planted. So I've got some also pictures that are borrowed from a good friend of mine that also has been showing. She's got this just doing from a concrete floor, as you can see, you know, and everything is on the pots.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is rosemary. As Joe said, you need to trim it quite often. But just look at the size of these pots, you know, and once it grows, it's something that you can share also as a gift to your family who loves gardening. But yeah, this is a little bit, I thought, let's share a few appetizers from our audience.
I just want to add something, peppers and peppers also in hanging pots, and they will actually go over and sort of hang down, and the stalk sort of adjusts, but it actually grows upside down. You can actually plant a tomato upside down, for instance, in a Coke bottle or something, and it will, and they actually grow very nicely like that. So you can grow them hanging as well. Tomatoes and peppers.
I am going to take you up on that suggestion. I've got a few seeds that I've just put down. I'm actually going to do that, Joe. I'm gonna give you a shout on that one. Definitely, I like the idea.
Yeah. Oh, this is actually.
Of course, there's also.
No, go ahead.
Some people. There's another thing. If people don't even have that much space, you can set up a small hydroponic system, even with lights.
Oh yes.
Even if you don't. So some people don't actually have even a sunny area for instance, you know?
Yeah.
So even within your house, you can set up a small hydroponic system with lights, which is not very expensive, and you can grow a few basic things in that as well, even as part of decoration in your home.
Wow.
Instead of having a fish tank, maybe, or even with a fish tank, you can even use that water. But there's always a way. If there's a will, there's a way.
That's true. I know you did share a picture of that with me. At the end of our show, I'll share it onto my news feed. So it'll be easy for everyone to have a look at it. Okay. So we've come to the end of our discussion, which was absolutely enlightening for me, very inspiring. And I'm sure our viewers that are listening in, they also enjoyed it a lot. And I'm sure all of them are so inspired that they're going to start the gardening straight away. Let's maybe tomorrow, because it's already the evening here in South Africa. But in other parts of the world, it's actually maybe during the day right now. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to recap everything. And whilst I recap, our audience that's still on, can you please, if you have any questions for our guest speakers, you can actually type them out. Just send them out into our comments feed. And after I recap, I will go back onto Facebook and just try and gather all of them together. I will consolidate it, and I will ask your questions to our guests. So I tried to take down notes as I normally do, and there was so much of information. I'm sure I never take down all of it, but let's start. So we started off by when I asked a question, what is simple living and higher thinking? So Joe and Nomusa, both of them actually mentioned, we need to find out what's our real position on this planet. We need to be conscious. We need to be conscious of what we are doing for our spiritual self. And what are the merits of simple living? So simple living, becoming aware, creating a positive impact, and living our purpose. So we don't become an autopilot, be more responsible, building stronger communities. And well, basically that actually starts with making a decision. We have to focus on what to put into our bodies, and that's how we're going to be learning to live simpler. And I like what Nomusa mentioned. No matter what happens in life, Mother Nature honors the earth. Have a connection with where our food comes from. And first step is to just start. So that was from Joe. You just said, if you don't know how to garden, just start. And gradually, as you actually gardening, you will make mistakes along the way, but those mistakes will actually turn into lessons, and gradually it'll actually flourish. So Joe also mentioned, first we would need sunlight, potting soil, seedlings, water. And if you don't have a big garden or a big space for planting, there's means and ways of doing that. You can also put your plants or your seedlings into pots. And he also mentioned something else. I will share that. I think it's called hydraulics, if I'm not mistaken. Joe, what is it called?
Hydroponics.
Okay, that's it. So yeah, so there's lots of exciting means and ways of us trying to live simpler and sustaining ourselves whilst we're doing that. So I'm going to go onto Facebook just to check if our audience has any questions. It will be nice, because this whole platform is designed for helping us learn and sustain ourselves whilst we're learning. Let's see. I'm just going to go check here. Okay.
While you're checking, maybe I can just mention that how it was
sure.
interesting. I mean, I don't really know Nomusa, but it was interesting how both of us felt that there's a deeper connection in the garden, you know, and I think sort of at the heart of it, that's where it lies. And that's why I was mentioning to you, like, that we can find our humanity in the garden, you know.
Yeah,
you can actually, because we're so disconnected, especially with modern life. more and more. I mean, Nomusa is now living in the East End, but as she said, she grew up in a community, right? But that community spirit with the modern living, even though we can connect through the internet in so many ways, people are becoming more and more lonely, you know?
Mm.
We talk to each other, but people don't connect anymore. The reason is because we're not interdependent. When you live in a community, people are interdependent. You depend on your neighbor, you know their business, actually, which people don't like often, but actually it's not a bad thing necessarily, you know?
Yes.
And you're not afraid to ask from them and they're not afraid to ask from you. And that's really where it comes down to. It's the basic, simple basics of life, you know, which nowadays we're so disconnected from.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, we are too afraid to ask our neighbors. Some of us are just too proud, and we just want to be independent, but we don't realize all of us need each other in order to survive. We need each other, whether it's actually association or help, because especially with this old pandemic, we are learning that we need each other to survive. No one can actually do it on their own. So I think our audience is actually quite shy because no one is asking any questions. Well, I gave you guys the opportunity to ask your questions, and always say opportunities very rarely comes twice. And whenever you get an opportunity, you need to grab them with both hands. I'm going to go one more time to check.
I also think we perhaps explained everything so clear that our audience is so confident that they can do it. Eh?
I'm sure they can. You are right. I'm sure
Just
you
give
can.
us
They can.
Yeah.
Yeah, then maybe we can just both maybe share some small lessons from our mistakes in the garden, you know.
Yes, please do that.
One thing I can say definitely is gardening is not just, you're not farming the plant, you're farming the soil. Okay, you're looking after, if you look after the soil, the plants will be happy. And that's the main thing. You have to make sure that there's moisture in the soil. You must make sure that the soil is, if they kept covered, if you can, with mulching, if you can. And really, it's all about keeping the life in the soil. The soil and the plant look after each other. They do the rest. As long as you actually sort of make sure there's enough moisture and the sunlight is there, protect your plants from the wind, excessive wind. That can be very bad for your plants as well. They struggle, you know?
Yeah.
So just the basic things. If you can do the basics right, then you should be okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, we still have your association, and I'm sure you'll be back. Both of you will be back to share more stories with our audience, and I'm sure they will be able to learn more from you. So Nomusa, do you have anything further to add?
Look, I think as a parting shot, perhaps, Vaish, is just to say to our audience, we know that times are tough. And hence we have to look for simpler ways. A lot of people, a lot of families have been affected. There have been job losses. I mean, that is a reality. It is our reality. So we cannot avoid that or ignore that. And hence we have to strive to really look for ways to live simply. We have to strive. So we have to make an effort. I think we should make an effort to cultivate joy, make an effort to cultivate the peace that you desire. Make an effort to cultivate rest. If you desire rest, just make an effort to cultivate that and actually make sure that's what you get. You know what George just explained about taking care of the soil? It's actually a very good example of how you need to take care. Whatever comes out of your human being, because we are a holistic human person, whatever that gets produced, it's as a result of how well you've taken care of yourself. So ultimately, the people that we are going to be after this pandemic, it's going to depend on how well we've been taking care of our mind, our body, our soul. And we can learn all those lessons in the garden. I can tell you, I come out of my garden with a lesson every day. Every day, there is a lesson that I get from my garden that is just helping me to cultivate, to be more mindful, and to be present in this moment, because it's definitely not easy, but it is doable. It is doable. So that's just what I'd like to encourage our audience.
I actually do like that. Thank you so much for that. And it's quite deep, quite profound, and I'm sure our audience can actually agree with that. Times are tough, but we can't focus on the toughness of these times. We have to find a solution, because for everything that we actually do in life, there are solutions. We cannot be lazy and just sit on our chairs and just expect things to happen. We have to make it happen. So yes, thank you so much to both of you for enlightening us, sharing so much of your knowledge with us. And I'm very, very grateful. And I'm sure audience are also very grateful to you. So can you, I'm going to share your social links with our audience. I know Joe is not on social media, but Nomusa, you have a blog that you actually write very beautifully. And if you want, you can actually share it with the audience. You could do it now, or you can actually put it in writing when you actually go onto the news feed, onto the comments feed, and you can just type it out there. And, it'll be very nice to engage with them as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think the audience is more than welcome to check out my Facebook page, is Nomusa Malatji. Okay. And I do have a blog, it's www.nomusamalaji.com. So I share a lot more about my family, the lifestyle, the career, and gardening, obviously my passion, and just the whole holistic approach to living, a sense of mindfulness and awareness. So yeah, they can visit there.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. So Joe, if the audience needs to get in contact with you, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, they can email me, nandagram.ecovillage@gmail.com. Maybe we can just share that email later on.
Okay.
Yeah, Nandagram, maybe I can just mention it's an NGO that I'm a director of, and it's really an NGO that's geared towards creating sustainable villages and also teaching people in different facets of sustainability, not just gardening, but all, like, for instance, I do pottery, natural building, things like carpentry, blacksmithing, a whole variety of skills that people can use in a village, really, I think if we're going to wait for our villages in the rural areas for the fourth industrial revolution to hit them, we're going to wait a long time. There's people who need to eat right now. They need to live a good life right now. And all the necessities are around them. And if we can teach people how to really live, a sustainable way, all they need is to learn the skills. The skills have been there for thousands of years, and we just need to teach people those skills. So that's what Nandagram is about. And if anyone wants to get in touch, then you can write to us.
Yeah. So thank you. We actually came to the end of our discussion. Thank you so much to our viewers for listening in. Thank you for engaging with us. And thank you for sharing this live stream across your social platforms. I'm going to upload this talk onto our YouTube channel. If you're not on YouTube, or if you know of your friends or family on YouTube and they would like to actually have access to this, maybe they don't have access to Facebook, you can ask them to follow me subscribe to my channel. It's called Mindful Trinity. I'm on quite a few social media platforms, so you can always find me on most of them. Just search for Mindful Trinity. So again, thank you so much for engaging with us. And thank you to our amazing guest speakers for just being here, enlightening us. It was so educational, so informative. I'm very grateful to you guys. So thank you again.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for having us, Vaj.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.